As Manifest Destiny took hold, colonists began to divvy up the western United States, pushing native peoples from the lands they stewarded. That act blocked access to a navigational beacon used by 7 different cultures, and opened the area to modern development, threatening its fragile foundation. The history of Eagle Rock is a story that Boise, Idaho forgot, and it's best told by our guest.
I'm Coyote Short at the Idaho Mining Museum, and I'm a licensed geologist. Also, I have a deep cultural connection to Eagle Rock, and my ancestors have a deep cultural connection, and I have a geological and cultural connection to Eagle Rock, and I have a very personal spiritual connection to Eagle Rock.
Yeah.
So I carry a lot of material in it, and I really appreciate the very, very spiritual, and it's a very live system. It's not just a rock outcrop. It has very important backgrounds and spiritual connotations.
Yeah, so let's go
So,
ahead and start with what is Eagle Rock for those of us that don't know?
oh, it's a beautiful, highly eroded but gracefully incised anticline of rhyolite. And its anticline is so nicely bunched up as a distorted anticline that gives the whole beauty and structure and strength to Eagle Rock. There's a very unique little outcrop, and there's nothing like it. There really is nothing like it. It has its own beauty. And when the sun comes up over it, it discloses some of the most important and intricate roots of that anticline. It's absolutely beautiful.
And so, what is some of the history behind Eagle Rock? You wrote this thesis about the desacralization of it. So, tell me a little bit about what is the history of Eagle Rock and what happened to it?
Well, it's a long story, so we'll go back in geological time if that's necessary. But let me
Please.
know if it was a cultural aspect, or do you want the geological aspect?
Let's go with both.
All right, the geological aspect is a long time ago, the whole state of Idaho was in the throes of continental development. The one that made Eagle Rock possible was a series of rhyolite flows that happened during the early Miocene, which exposed a beautiful collection of banded rhyolites, of which Eagle Rock is a remnant of. But this particular kind of rhyolite we're looking at is a special part of the flow that flowed over the top, and as it flowed, it became rippled and distorted and folded in its melted form. And when it cooled, it stayed frozen that way. So this texture of the rhyolite is so great and so diverse. If you break it open, you can see where the interior of it has been exposed, where rhyolite that has come up interior-wise has frozen and become a glass vitrophyre, and this vitrophyre is absolutely beautiful. So that's during the Miocene time. Then as the rock became more and more exposed, that means as the actual block of Idaho, we call this the Treasure Valley rose, the whole unit, when you raise something up, it increases its erosional factor. So eventually, poor Eagle Rock got incised to the point of its now standing sculpture it is today.
Gotcha.
Also, it exposed lots of the geothermal activity that's lying just below the surface. And the geothermal activity is still present, and it warms up Warm Springs Avenue, and lots of houses are developing systems in which they can take that hot water and heat homes with it. And we're the only capital in the United States that's actually geothermally heated. Did you know that?
I did not know that. So, this geothermal area kind of. So, how does Eagle Rock become this like kind of cultural site? What makes that happen?
Okay, I'll tell you the real special part of it. The composition of the rock is only part of the story.
Okay.
It's exposure its exposure to the culture as we came along and saw its uniqueness and its stance on the plane that it's on. Has a very unique sculpture feel, and it is the one that stands out above all of the rest of the rhyolite here. The natives saw that immediately. It's also under a very important portion of the sky, and under the certain star clusters that you look up, and you can actually orient the valley, and everything is just below Eagle Rock. Is actually a navigational tool, and that became an important item to the natives. And the natives, it goes back so far that the agriculture, the actual geological and cultural portion of this is lost to time, but it goes back into archaeological history.
Gotcha.
So the geological history is connected to the sky. The sky is also connected to Eagle Rock. So the ground and the sky are not separate. To try to put it in a nice term, is we're connected to the cosmos and we're connected to the earth through Eagle Rock. So an Eagle Rock does not stand alone. It's part of the whole system of culture. And it goes back a long, long ways.
Yeah, and so in your thesis, you talk about something called the Lyons Treaty. So tell me a little bit about the U.S. government getting involved at Eagle Rock.
Well, see, the processes of Eagle Rock doesn't understand the forces that form Eagle Rock are unaware of the trivial and tribal things of man. Man has no understanding of what's below their feet. So what does the government do? The government only knows how to draw lines on the surface of the ground or on maps. They do not know what they're really implying by that. And you can't, in our world, you can't own, or you cannot own land. You can only use it as a steward and take care of it and make sure that it's been passed down in its good form. You don't really own the land. You take care of it. You're responsible for it. And there's been a lot of trickery going on, and a lot of it try to get people to move away, and they don't know what's entailed in supporting and maintaining Eagle Rock's culture or the resources that it guards and protects. So that part of that treaty was to try to pull away the land that Eagle Rock's sitting on away from the natives who use it. And it's not just one set of tribes. There's 7 different cultures involved in it. And they go way, way back. How do you explain to somebody who has used these over the centuries, all of a sudden is finding out that this is off limits? That's like taking the North Star away and the Big Dipper away. What would you do? This is how it feels.
Yeah, I have no idea what I would even do in that situation. And so they're moved, right? So the government comes in and they're drawing lines on a map, and then they're telling these tribes and clans and families to move away from an area that is spiritually important to them. What comes next?
Well, next this was more pressure and more involvement. There's prospectors, there's people who are escaping tyranny themselves, who should know better and know that tyranny is a problem. Here they are applying the same kind of tyranny to the Indians and to us natives that take care of this land, the exact same tyranny that they're escaping. This is very, very unbelievable. But as population increases and encroaches, the development in the 1990s is rooted from all of these other developments just below it. So in the 1990s, when housing and culture drove in more people and more houses were needed and more housing in places, they don't understand the land that they're sitting on. The land is very fractured and fragile, and it is on the move. It is composed of several block faults that are moving, and the block faults themselves are actually in motion right now as we speak. And they shouldn't be building houses. They did try to put housing on there, and it increased the motion on the block faults. They had to withdraw from that and not build any more houses on it.
And what does the effort to protect Eagle Rock in the modern era kind of look like? What is being done? What's going on? And, for everybody who might not be aware, why is it important that we protect areas like Eagle Rock?
Well, number one, it should never be built on. It is a cultural beacon that reaches back beyond the centuries, and is also going to be a future beacon that points forward into the future. It is such an important icon for the natives especially, that it would be like if I can put a universal icon, take it away from you, how would you feel if somebody come along and decided to take and dismantle the Statue of Liberty and make it someplace else? Or let's say the Black Hills of the president's face carved on the mountain up there. How would you feel about that? How would you feel if somebody walked in here and said, oh, we want to take over this Mount Rushmore and take all the president's faces off. We're going to build over it. You don't need it anymore. Well, you know how precious those kind of things. Those are American icons. Imagine the many, many years that precede Eagle Rock. It's the same kind of impact. It's the same kind of loss. And it's the same kind of cultural loss personally for me. I know secrets about Eagle Rock that people cannot comprehend. It's hard to convey them in one media. I could convey it in more of a native format, and it can be done, and I have done it, and I'm willing to do that if that's necessary. But Eagle Rock has a very deep meaning for me, and it's definitely something that needs to be done. But they're not really, right now, the protection and of Eagle Rock really has been, all of these wonderful things have been put on hold or been frozen in time. A lot of these things, we now have to stand guard over them if we want to protect them at all, because the foundation that's supporting the protection is being eroded away. A lot of our national parks have suffered the same way. But the tribes themselves come here annually, and we have a great celebration of life on Eagle Rock that's very meaningful and very deeply spiritual thing. And it's a conductive renewal event. It's hard to explain the cultural reach to someone who has never experienced it. But once you have, then you know the magnitude of what is going on.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. And so when you were writing your thesis on Eagle Rock and you were doing your research, was there anything that really stuck out to you as particularly interesting? Was there anything that surprised you?
Well, I'll tell you how this thesis began. It was actually a rescue effort. And the story of Eagle Rock goes back to where it was become a refuge and an icon for us natives. Then we discovered an emergency. Housing was going to be built right on top of Eagle Rock and around it, and they were going to take the top off of the ground up there and put houses directly on the rock. Geologically, that's shocking, because right now, as it stands, without any weight on the rock, it's slowly moving. But if you put any kind of housing pressure on it, or adjust the water conductivity through that fault line, or put any kind of extra twist on the foundation of those houses at all, it'll make that block fault move, and that thing will slide downhill and be catastrophic. So we were trying to, and this thesis became a project of a rescue, because there was nobody else that had the deep feeling, understanding, connections, and love, and understand the deep geological aspects of Eagle Rock, so I was the only one qualified to take this on. So I dove in and rescued as much of it as I could and tried to convey it.
And it
So
seems like you've done a pretty good job with that. And how does it feel knowing that you've helped preserve a little bit of this piece of history?
Well, to me, it's a great responsibility, and I want someone who goes before me to understand what they are protecting and what treasure it is, and how to pass it on and to convey what I know about it and help them to reach into the history and become part of it themselves. And history will be lost if you don't live the history. The reason I know the history as well as I do is because I love it and live it. It is part of my soul.
And
see, time created this, and time will destroy it.
yeah,
so we have to be responsible.
Yeah. It's a heavy burden you've taken on here. And so what is coming next for Eagle Rock? What are you folks working on in terms of preservation efforts? What is coming next for the historic site?
Well, right now, we're in a kind of a freeze, what they call a political doldrums. Things that we're just trying to hold the line because there's so much economic seismic activity going on. We're just holding on to try to hold the things together and try to outride the storm that we're in. And everybody knows, if they haven't got a TV or radio that works, knows there's a big storm hitting the United States and the whole globe. And it has far-reaching implications. So what we're trying to do right now is hold our lives together. And as we hold our lives together, we can hold our little wonderful place in the cosmos together. But we must work together and hold each other together. This is how it is. But right now it's on hold. We don't dare go any further with it because we have lots of economic erosion going on, all kinds of it. And so we have to be sure to know where to protect the best we can. So, and the best way to keep it from being lost is to continually keep it in recordings and make sure we know the history and know how to replicate it if we can, and draw the line on it being destroyed any further than it has.
And should people be taking trips to visit Eagle Rock, even if they don't know the history? And when they go to visit it, what does visiting it for the first time kind of feel like, do you think?
Well, it's a wonderful thing. There's only two caveats to consider. You have to have nice, good footwear and beware of the trail there, because you don't want to wear flip-flops. You want to have good shoes. Have dress for the weather. But the best way to really visit Eagle Rock is to come down and see the museum's exhibit, where it tells about the background, the history, and then when you go up there, you can see a lot more of the rock that you wouldn't normally see before, because you wouldn't know where to look. You wouldn't know what was really the focus and the purpose of Eagle Rock just by walking over it. Because you'd have to have the geological insight, the cultural insight, the storylines, the many supporting creation stories behind it are all encased in our exhibits, and we have quite a few publications and pamphlets on Eagle Rock that we can share. I would rather, if anybody wants to visit Eagle Rock, come down and see the museums first, and then you can get a whole different view of Eagle Rock, because it's something you don't want to miss.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds absolutely fascinating, and it seems like a good place to go and, get spiritually tied to a little bit of a deeper location. And so, what are some of those creation stories? You kind of mentioned those. What are some of the creation stories that are tied directly to Eagle Rock?
Well, the counting of time began in this valley on Eagle Rock. As you know, all of the stories, time began in the first week of time. That's when time began for Eagle Rock. And the first creation days were recited on Eagle Rock, as it's done every time that the medicine man or the person who's carrying the story takes his feather and recounts each day of creation on top of the Eagle Rock as it is recited. The numbers and the creation story goes through each day of creation, through all of the numbers, and through all the items that were created and mentioned in the story. And each of the children that are there, they recall it themselves, their portion of the creation story. There are several lines of creation stories available. And time began for all of us on Eagle Rock as the first creation week began. So that's the first of the Paiute stories. The Bannocks carry a little different twist on it, but it's still a very the continuity is the same. They have different animals that are responsible for helping in the story, and at the very end of the creation, we're given the responsibility to take care of our valley, and we should be paying attention to that. That's how these stories always conclude. We're given the responsibility to take care of our planet. And each of the 7 tribes have a little different variation on that story. Time does not serve us here. I could carry 9 or 10 of the stories myself in my head. So it is a very beautiful format. I have some of the stories in my writings. I have writings about the creation stories on Eagle Rock, and so they are available.
Yeah, and so if somebody liked what they're, if what they're hearing, where can they find more of your work and more about Eagle Rock? Where are some good resources we can point people?
Well, you come right to the Idaho Mining Museum and contact somebody who's in charge of the schedules. Like, for instance, if there's a holiday and everything's closed up, you want to check ahead, see if the museum is even open for visitors, and then you can come in and ask around and ask for the different publications on Eagle Rock. They're available right here at the desk and at the gift shop. So anyone there that's present that can let you in, and if you have a phone and you have the phone number to the gift shop lady, if there's not, you can make orders for the Eagle Rock stories if you like. So it's not like it's absolutely stuck on a day. You can ask ahead and inquire on how to get hold of the material. So it's not like it's stuck behind the walls. You can order the publications.
That's perfect. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for bringing this story to us here on the show. I really appreciate it.
Well, Eagle Rock is a treasure we all should guard.
Absolutely.
I think that we should be thinking about how we should pass along this treasure intact as much as possible.
Absolutely. Do you have any closing thoughts here, Coyote?
Well, you do know one thing, that we are stewards of this planet, and we are stewards of the story. We must carry the story as best we can. And like my grandma said, we have to take care of the rock by taking care of each other. We can't let that slide. So that's how she left it for me. And so now it's passed to me. Now you have it.
Now it's passed to all of us. So it is all up to us to help take care of Eagle Rock.
Yep.
And I think that is a perfect stopping place. Thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for listening. This program is made possible by our lovely guests and the patronage of viewers like you. If you enjoyed the program you're listening to, share us with a friend to help them remember a story your city forgot. And of course, another way to help the program is to give us a review on the streaming platform you're listening on. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to brush your teeth.